Hey, I'm Tyler.
And this is KC.
And you're listening to
The Element Podcast.
We are some tired boys. What's happening, all my woods people? It's a beautiful morning here in Northeast Texas. I'm actually really just saying it's a beautiful morning because I'm sitting on the property that I just purchased. Almost 30 acres of it.
Listening to your chickens.
Listening to the chickens and the wood bees and the summer tanagers and everything else. But it's actually warming up real quick, Casey.
It is. We noted that just before we pressed record here and decided to go ahead and expedite the recording process of this here podcast because it's, 8:45 and it's already just about blistering out here.
Yeah, it's we're sitting in the shade. It would be real brutal in the sun right now, but
we got to make this about a 45-minute podcast too because that shade is diminishing.
It's going away.
Yeah.
The humidity is actually probably the big killer right now, man. It has been just, we talk about this a lot. And we've asked some of our friends in the past that we can rib kind of from the north, but they like to talk temperatures in the winter that include wind chill. Mm-hmm. And we don't really ever talk a whole lot about temperatures up here that include heat index.
Yeah, because it sounds real silly when I tell people, it's 117 today.
Yeah. Yeah, people are going to be like, are you in Arizona?
Yeah.
It's like, no, actually, it's hotter than Arizona. Okay?
Yeah, exactly. So, something that I've learned through doing construction for a big part of my life is that really the 9 or 8:30 to 11 is usually hotter than the afternoon, even though the outside temperature doesn't reflect that because the humidity burns off in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And, the sun can get pretty brutal, but, this time of day, there's usually no wind, which is the case right now.
Yes.
And it's humid, and it just feels like you are breathing inside of a bag.
We talked about this, and I don't know if it would be any worse, but we talked about possibly going over to that little travel trailer over there and podcasting to lose weight. I think we could do it almost just as effectively right now. Yeah. Sonicast. We do truck cast most of the time, but we were thinking about doing some Sonicast.
Yeah.
So, with that said, we're probably still, I don't know, we might decide to start talking in heat indexes. The thing is, man, a heat index is like still around in the afternoon. I don't know what it is, but even if you feel like the humidity burns off, there's something.
Yeah,
there.
sure.
Like you look at the temperature and it's like, feels like 115, and it's like, gummit, man, that's brutal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's been pretty bad lately, and it hasn't been like super, super hot, really.
This isn't anything like the 2000s.
No.
The 2000s were absolutely, I don't know how people survived. We were in school, so we didn't really go out during the day that much. In the summertime, we did, but...
Dude, you want to talk about making us tough? Play some football in the 2000s.
Yeah. Dude, the grass was brown the whole time. It just smelled like
hay dust.
Yeah, like hot hay dust out there.
And when you landed on it, because it had been cut 2 months ago, it was basically like just like Bahia needles going.
They didn't water it, especially practice fields. So the ground was literally as hard as rocks.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure that we had quite a few people with broken stuff that year and a lot of injuries, and I think that had a lot to do with it.
Probably.
Because there was no cush.
Probably.
You go out for spring football, that Bermuda grass is so thick you can't even touch the dirt underneath it. You know what I mean? It feels nice. And then, golly, dude, 2 days around August 15th,
The only thing that survived, man, grass-wise, was stickers.
Yeah.
It's like, dadgummit, man. We had to do bear crawls and stuff. I'm like, Coach, I'm not doing this, man. Like, I will bend over and run with my head right off the ground as fast as I can, but I'm not putting my hands down on this.
That's funny, man.
So anyway, we are here in the morning doing this podcast a day late, which happens sometimes.
More than $1 short.
Yes. We spent all yesterday pretty much doing some business stuff, and that included a majority of wrapping up the Map Scout Challenge stuff. I don't know. We've been talking about this since February or something, maybe, when we decided to just go ahead and make it happen. And so you guys have been listening to it for a long time, and I know you're like, where is this thing? when you podcast, you just talk about stuff that's going on. And we've been filming this thing since February
That's
pretty
right.
much. So if you follow our Instagram, you saw that I posted a story probably recently that we were at 700 gigs, and that was before yesterday's filming session. So
yeah, and we had an 11-hour workday yesterday.
Yeah.
Now, not all of that was spent doing Map Scout stuff. Not all of that was even spent being super productive, but
it was a lot of production.
It was a productive day,
Yeah.
for sure. But it's been neat to kind of see how this thing has morphed a little bit since we first started, and Onyx decided to hop on and really be a big supporter of it too. So that helps and allows us to go and do and go check out new and neat stuff that we normally wouldn't have been able to go do, you know. So that's why we ended up in the Midwest some and doing all that thing. But we have a release date, August 4th.
Yep.
Be ready. It's
ready.
about to go down.
Yep. Lots of cool stuff, man. I pretty much have the first video up all completely edited, and it's gonna upload obviously August 4th. That is Kentucky.
Yeah.
So
why are we doing
cool stuff
Kentucky
there.
first?
Well, that's because we made some false statements in Kentucky. It's not the first season east of the Mississippi to
Is it not?
open up. Florida.
Oh, they don't count.
That's what I thought too, but the thing is there's going to be some Florida dude on there that's like, bro.
That's true. Actually, who's one of our fans that we talk to a lot's from Florida? Which guy is it? I can't remember.
It's Chris Derrick.
Yeah.
No, Mike Massey, right?
Yeah. But did you see that the QDMA reposted like a Florida grasslands thing or something that showed a bachelor buck? Go check out the QDMA's page and give them a follow because big things happen in the deer conservation world here all back. The QDA and the NDA all merged. So you get minds like Nick Pinizzato and Pawpaw and all them down there. He's going to be mad at me. Lindsey Thomas Jr. Brian Murphy. All these smart dudes are all going to be just working together. That's cool. But what I was trying to say is that there was like a South Florida bachelor group eating or browsing along the edge of a drainage canal. I'm sure there were peacock bass in it right there. But there was like some nice bucks.
Really?
And it was a bachelor group of like 15. It was cool, man.
Dude, that is cool.
Yeah, it was neat.
Were they like 100 pounds?
I'll put that on the story today. I'll go see if they posted it on Instagram. I'll put it on the story.
Man,
yeah.
Dude, you talk about cast and blast, man.
Dude, how cool would that be?
Baby.
They might have an open season down there right now.
They might.
Don't they have like July?
There's like a July rut or something, right? We talked about that in the Lindsey Thomas Jr.
Lindsey,
podcast.
that was a good episode. I'll link that.
What was it called?
Too. What in the rut? If you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
That's right.
That's right.
Oh, man.
Otherwise, you don't know.
You don't know.
You don't know that you don't know. So, man, those chickens don't smell that great.
Yummies. So August 4th, put that on your calendars. I'm sure that if you follow us on any platforms, you will be reminded between now and then and the day of. But guys, we worked real hard on this thing, and we appreciate the support and shares, even if you don't mind sharing it when it comes out. Where are you pointing at?
My lens cap still said I forgot to get it. I'll guarantee you I forget it before I leave.
I'll look at it and remember.
In case he's not very good at Frisbee throwing ananymore. Probably was at one point.
I was a disc golf champion at one point in time, but you had to grow up sooner or later, you know?
yeah, you did. Didn't you? Can't be stuck between high school and college forever.
That's right.
So today we've just got kind of a random, I don't like this word, but I'm going to use it, smorgasbord.
I don't mind that word too much.
That's not my favorite. It's kind of...
random bothers me more than smorgasbord does.
Okay.
You remember in high school, everybody was like, you're so random. That was like the thing people said.
I was in college at that point.
No, you're only 1 year above me in school. I know. Well, I don't know, man. Emory might have just...
because you got held back.
Did y'all miss... That's rude. Did Emory miss out on the emo phase, or was
y'all had emos? No, dude, we were emo capital of Texas.
I don't know. I don't know about all that.
Come on, we're the meth capital of Texas.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, there's a lot of sad people.
Yeah, E-meth.
We had some emos for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't have too many people like painting their face white.
Did you have mainstream emos too? Like were popular kids kind of like just barely emo?
Yeah, me.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I didn't
dress it, but dude, I listened to that music for sure.
Yeah,
I listened to it right. Like y'all know me, I don't listen to music. I searched emo mix on YouTube the other day, and I've been listening to some good old My Chemical Romance and whatnot.
Yeah, dude, that was just pop music back then.
There's some masterpieces in some of that stuff.
Dude, My Chemical Romance was awesome. Who else was Coheed and Cambria? You ever listen to them?
Yeah, Coheed and Cambria. We had a local band from Sulphur Springs. What was their name?
Fair to Midland.
Fair to Midland, that's right.
They were very popular.
Yeah.
So it's weird because they were like, if they'd have stayed in it a couple more years, they were getting play on 102.1 The Edge, which is like the station of North Texas for rock, and they were all over it.
Yeah.
They were doing big things. They were playing overseas and stuff.
So, I used to work at the gas station in Sulphur Springs, and I cooked food. They'd come in at like 9:50 and order nachos and burgers and donuts and stuff, and red-eyed.
Oh, yeah. Been out all night. Yeah, they're going out all night.
Yeah.
Them dudes, from what I understand, which, I played, my guys in my band are from Sulphur. And so, they kind of just being musicians, they grew up.
They're a little younger than me. They
thought those guys were the baddest things ever, and they are super talented. But I think some of those guys are a little bit weird too. So
you get into some stuff sometimes. It seems
they couldn't hold it together. But
yeah,
no, that was that emo stuff was like that was just pop music when we were growing up.
Yeah,
man.
I've been talking to my youth kids. And this is a music podcast, by the way, guys. But I was talking to my youth kids the other day, and I asked a bunch of them. I was like, "So, what are like some new songs that are new artists that come out like right now that you like?" They couldn't name any of them.
No,
I don't think that there's good music right now.
Well,
and I know that sounds like a fogey thing to say, but like, really?
Well,
but they were saying like country bands and stuff,
know,
and that's fine. I like country music kind of, but like. There's always been a Michael Jackson or NSYNC or something, that's
and
always.
There's a few of those. I mean, Bruno's still kind of the MJ right now, but
but he's not the popular guy. He's playing like concerts for 20-somethings that remember, when he was cool, and he's playing like, really, if you play the Super Bowl, that means you're a really popular has-been. There's never like a current, Justin Timberlake. When did he do the Super Bowl? It was like him and Janet Jackson after he wasn't.
I mean, not everybody's the Who and plays it at 75 years old.
That's true. That was weird.
No, I agree with you. Actually, Colton Smith, my buddy that plays bass for my band, was posted on Facebook last night a similar post. Like, man, it's sad to see like all these kids right now are just listening to pop music, which is essentially what is on the radio, the popular music. And, like, they don't have a clue who people are from 5 or 10 years ago. And the thing is, when we were growing up, like, playing instruments was cool. And I don't think that's that cool right now.
Have we gotten to the point, we talk about this some with podcasts, and if you're listening to us, you probably listen to other podcasts too. No one listens to one. If you do, if we're your one and only, we love you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Reach out to us, too.
Yeah, tell us. But you've talked about this a lot, like that in the hunting space and just in general, the barrier to entry to podcast is really, really low. It costs you about $100 and you're a podcaster all of a sudden, and you can put out an episode a day if you want to, right? So it's all about quality of content and originality, which today we have neither of, I think. I'm kidding, well, maybe you'll tell me, but. Either way, I kind of wonder if the music industry is getting into that. Like, for y'all, barrier to entry was a huge thing.
Yeah.
But now,
waning still. I mean, we still had digital recording equipment.
Yeah.
It used to be on tape. You had to be good enough to go in and cut it and not have to move stuff around very much and not have to cut the tape and stuff, And us getting into it, we had digital stuff, and I was able to kind of through a friend put together a home studio and do our first album, and it sounds really bad. Like it's bad, but like it was a start, And the thing is, people don't know what good music is a lot of times. People aren't music snobs. They just want to hear something that relates to them a little bit. Frankly, if you start posting on Facebook and it looks decent, people will think that you're doing good things and they're going to like your music a lot of times. It's crazy, man. Crazy some of the bad music that can come out right now. But you're right. Like the barrier to entry for music is the same deal. Like people can buy a Mac for a couple $1,000 or $3,000.
Which they'll probably have anyways. You can finance it and it's multi-purpose.
Exactly. You can go to college and get, deals on them or whatever. But either way, people can buy a laptop and basically create some pretty awesome master. I mean, we have a friend that we played with recently that opened up for us that has produced his stuff, and it sounds like, I mean, it could be on the radio. Like, it's legit, you know what I mean?
What was that kind of pseudo-Christian band, Owl City? Wasn't that it? You know who I'm talking about?
Oh, I know. I remember them.
He, it's like Fireflies or something like that was the name of his song. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure he did vocals and everything else was done on his laptop.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Like, it's so, like, the appreciation for musicianship has definitely kind of gone to the wayside, and just the style, the ability to, like, break into the industry through just digital, straight up, not even digital recording, but digital producing of beats and guitars and pianos and synths and all that kind of stuff has, like, pretty much synth.
Yep. Synthesizations.
Yeah. So
I
that's
thought you
all.
said synths, like putting deer in pens and just taking and
Oh,
gathering the pea.
Yeah. Wild synths. So no, but that's created the opportunity for, like, thousands or more, maybe, you know, to kind of just put their music out there, right? And I think that it also affects the consumer in the way, like, your youth kids, they don't know any artists right now because nobody gives 2 cents about an artist, and that's
true. You don't have to buy albums.
CENTS.
You get on
Buy singles.
Spotify. You get on Spotify. You find
Listen to
one
singles.
person you like, and then it just tells you who the next person you like is.
Yeah.
You know, you
Yeah,
don't really
exactly.
have to care who it is. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, this song is kind of like that song. You're going to listen to it too.
Yeah, that's exactly right, man. So, like, singles are a big deal, not albums, and that creates people that just know songs and not artists too much. You know?
Yeah.
So it kind of stinks, man.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Well,
like, we deal
Barrett-
with it with the podcast deal too, like you said, man. I mean, anybody can record an album in their room on a Mac after work at night for a few hours at a time and take several months. And just the same way, anybody can get their best friend when they're, you know, say 20 and don't have a whole lot of responsibility except for a job, maybe, and just go into their back room every evening, have a brew, and podcast about deer. And it's like, you know, there's a bunch of them out there. It doesn't make them all good. Some of them are cool, you know. But,
and there's a lot of really good dudes who their podcast, whatever. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not criticizing anybody, but you know, it's just kind of how it goes. But
for you, at least, yeah.
Yeah. One,
as a consumer, you
Yeah.
get bored pretty easy. You know?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With a
for
podcast,
sure.
at least.
Yeah, for sure. But one of the things that, speaking of barrier to entry, one of the things that we've been doing a lot is answering social media messages pertaining to hunting Texas public land.
Yep.
Which is really kind of where the element started and still has its roots. You know, if you've seen our T-shirt design, the roots of that tree are in Texas public land.
Yeah.
And you can tell by the East Texas 8 that is underneath that tree.
That's right.
We specifically, Tyler brought this to my attention a few years back, and now I'm a full, firm believer. But when you see a logo and the deer skull in that logo, because it's always a skull, you know.
Can't be a live deer.
Can't be a live deer. It's got to be a skull, a dead head. Yeah. It scores 280. Then you realize, you're like, hey, what is that? What is that animal right there, you know?
It's a red stag.
That's right. Now, the deer on our T-shirt, public land, Texas legal, 13 and a half inches wide, 8-point, 3-year-old, something I would be real happy to shoot on Texas public
on the thin
land.
side.
On the thin, yeah. Yeah. We when we were looking at trail camera pictures a lot, no matter what state we're in, we say, oh, that's an East Texas looking deer right there for sure. Because you have them everywhere.
Yeah.
It's all a bell curve, and it just so happens here in the eastern part of the state that peak of the bell curve is definitely towards the thin and short tine side. But you can still find it. Like, for instance, I had a couple deer on my property last year. You did too, that were really quality bucks. But anyways, back to the barrier to entry thing. We get a lot of messages, and guys, if you have messaged us, we appreciate that. I try to get to them as much as I can. And one of the things that I try to do is not give you, wow, that's great, guys. Good job. Thanks for following. Like, I really try to answer messages with
You're good at that,
with
man.
good, well, thanks, with good answers, you know. Like, I want to make sure I give you what you're looking for, and also don't want to portray myself as an expert, but more as just of a guy who's done some stuff and maybe what my experiences are can help you. With all that being said, people are real interested in hunting public land, and it's not like a super high barrier to entry if you don't let it be. And that's kind of a funny thing because I was talking about this yesterday with our friend Eric Whiting, who's been on the elk hunting podcast. Like one of the reasons that I think that hunting is kind of suffering as far as like number of licenses sold is because people do think that you got to have like the lightest stand ever, the lightest sticks possible ever, the fanciest camo system that's ever been invented and all that just to go out there and do it. And
you ain't even got to have a Weatherby.
No, you don't. You ain't even got to have a gun.
Yeah,
you know,
true.
like, and that's the other deal is like people think that you got to go out and buy new stuff and all that, and that's just not the case, man. And people also think that you need to start out with deer, and that's not the case. You know, what we talk about a lot is the hog hunting thing on Texas public land because it's so accessible. There's so many pigs out there to shoot at lots of times of the year. So, you know, I don't know. Just, I guess, as a word of encouragement, if that's you and you're trying to figure out how to do the public land thing, just go do it, man. It's $48 for the permit. I don't think that's going to go up. It doesn't seem like they ever changed the price for that.
It's been there a long time.
Yeah. And a hunting license. You know, if you're like me, you spend the extra money, buy a super combo because you do fish some, and it's worth it. And then you get a bunch of stamps with that, too, and then all you got to buy is a federal duck stamp. I don't usually do that just because I don't duck hunt that much. But if you feel like supporting conservation in that way, it's a good way to do it too. But either way, you're talking at like $200 on the top end that it takes to go out and just start hunting.
Yeah.
You know,
and I'm going to have you kind of talk a little bit about like what it takes to start hunting, I guess. But like for me, this morning actually was looking through a Facebook group that you and I are part of, public hunting group, you know, and
saw some good knives posts on there.
No, I didn't. That's crazy that I didn't though. But there was a dude that was like, I don't know, probably like 40-year-old kind of guy. And he was like, just seemed real proud of his, the stuff that he shot. And he just kind of was like, almost similar deal, like encouraging deal. Like, he was like, I shoot, you know, it's amazing what you see when you go way back in. Here's some of the stuff that I've shot on public land in Texas, you know. It's been good to me. Public land's been good to me kind of thing. I didn't see it as really an arrogant post or nothing. He was just kind of proud of the stuff that he's shot.
It's like, July. Let's talk about something.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's what we're doing right now. So he posted a bunch of pictures. I don't know. There was like maybe like 10 or 12. And it was pretty much all does. May have been one small buck and hogs. And all of them that he had shot, you know, or whatever. And he have his like gun, his AR or whatever, you know, he had kind of with him there and on the deer or whatever and take a picture of it. And so he had said like, crazy what you see when you go way back in. He said like does, mature bucks, hogs, snakes. He posted some cottonmouth pictures.
Oh, that's why you liked it.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, I guess he said mature bucks in the post or something. And dude, people just like started raging him.
Oh man.
They were like, I don't see any mature bucks in there. Every time I go to Colorado, I kill big bulls or whatever. It's like, what? Are you kidding? What are you saying right now? You know, it kind of was disheartening because I think it was the same group recently had a guy reach out that was like, okay, y'all, I hate to admit this, but I just can't. I'm not a good hunter. Can somebody mentor me, please? And like everybody came to the rescue on that guy. You know, it was good. But this was apparently the people that didn't speak up on that post spoke up on this one and were just raging this dude.
It just matters the time of the day.
I was like, dang, man, this guy, like, and he just looked like a guy that kind of just, you know, wouldn't mean harm or nothing, you know, in his pics or whatever. And so I felt so bad for him, man. But like, you know, I guess I'm making the point that like, if you want to get a rifle and go walking through a big patch of timber real slow into the wind, man, you can kill stuff. You know what I mean? And that's cool. And I like that guy's post. If you want to go on a little higher quality hunt, talk about like what you might need to do as far as public land hunting goes in Texas.
And you mean just like a
higher quality, as in like, you know, more game or possibly bigger deer, less hunting pressure. You know what I mean?
Like
Obviously,
what steps to take to find that kind of deal?
you can find walk-in, but like there are other ways to do that, as far as like draw hunts and that kind of thing.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, so right now, Texas has opened up their draw hunts for application time, which seemed a little early this year, which is nice.
It did.
I think it might have been a couple weeks earlier. I don't know for sure, but still, Texas is way. I wish they would do it like in May, as soon as the turkey hunts wrap up, But they kind of do things a little bit weird, I guess. I don't know if it's weird or not, but well, there are definitely some weird things. We'll cover all of it, but in general, right now through like October, they kind of sequence through all these draws, and you do everything from deer, turkey, exotics, all the stuff you can hunt in Texas. Even there's some squirrel ones, and they're all kind of different levels or whatever. But then, like, you don't get to go on your turkey hunt until April or May or whatever. It's a while yet. Kind of wish that they would separate that out a little bit. But
also, instead of drawing your tag in June or July like most Western states and having several months to prepare for it, you might draw your tag in September and you got an October hunt. And it's like,
exactly.
Well, I can't take off work 4 weeks out,
I know. Yeah, that's exactly what it's like. And they're not weekend hunts either, which is strange. Some of them are, but most of them are midweek hunts, which I kind of get from the standpoint of like the wildlife biologist side of things. If you have general day use on your WMA, people who are non-hunters, it's a lot easier to shut down your place during the week. But at the same time, man, like, how many of y'all out there are weekend hunters? I know it's got to be a bunch of you. I was for a very long time until we really got rolling with the element stuff, and to an extent, I still am a little bit of a weekend hunter. Like, I have to plan around weekends and try to incorporate that into our hunts. I'm blessed with a youth ministry job that kind of flips that a little bit. Ministers work more on the weekends than they do during the week.
Well, that's your thing is like Monday and Tuesday might be your weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're still kind of working towards that, I guess.
Yeah, but for the most people work on Monday to Friday, or if you don't, you're an outlier, and that's cool too. But it kind of makes it difficult. But we were going to talk about the positives of this, the good stuff. Let's go with that. Okay, so the draw hunts. There actually are draw statistics out there that you can see. You can also see success rates, and you can see how many people apply.
Most of the time. Sometimes it's weird.
Well,
like you can go click on something on a hunt or something, and they just won't put a success rate.
It's
or something
either because
like
it's bad or it's like a brand new hunt or something like that, or they didn't get the data. Like, I think some of these places, like every WMA is managed differently, and maybe
by different biologists.
Yes, exactly.
So like a certain biologist may be a new guy or something and didn't know that he needed to report his data.
Or they might have had a change in hands at that time and that information got lost or something, know. But for the most part, you can see that. And the most depressing of those will be how many applicants there were. So, guys, it does benefit to accumulate points in Texas, but you can draw on your first year. So don't think that you can't put in for stuff. But you'll look on there and you can see which hunts are going to be the most difficult to draw. I'm not going to really talk about specific hunts too much because I don't want to, highlight some and make it harder than it already is for people.
We're already doing that on the Map Scout
That's
Challenge.
right, exactly. But there's some new ones out there. There's some really cool opportunities for exotics. What I like about some of the exotic hunts is that they're somewhat outside the normal hunting seasons, and that interests me a lot because I really don't care to go shoot or draw to shoot an axis doe November 18th. You know what I mean? Because I got some other things I need to be taking care of.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and then the 19th month anniversary, so there's that too. But,
got to come back.
Yeah, exactly. But, February 4th, hey, now we're talking. You know, that extends my hunting season with some really good meat. And a lot of those exotic hunts have pretty good odds as far as what's the word, like kill statistics, like your odds of killing something's real good.
Yeah, like hunters to kill ratio.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and usually they give you a percentage or whatever. But so those are the cool things to look at. Texas pronghorn is what it is.
The one thing you won't get are like true odds from, in a lot of states you don't, but like it's kind of a little bit frustrating because there's not a whole lot of data for like what you pretty much have the number of applicants, and then the number of tags to do your basic odds. But the thing is, if you've got like 13 points, or say, there's 2,000 people that applied for the hunt, and 100 of them have over 10 points, then there's technically more points in the bucket. You know what I mean? So, like, you won't really know, like, it's still hard to, it's still random draw. From what I understand. And I've literally called the department to ask them about all of this, and you can't really talk to somebody who understands it.
Yeah.
They'll tell you.
So one of the strange things that it's kind of hard to wrap your mind around with this stuff too is on the points and everything is that, say, let's take Colorado, for instance, because it's the western state I understand the most. You have elk points, deer points, moose points, yada, 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 all from there on. And those points can be applied toward anything in that species. It's not how it works in Texas. You have mule deer points.
Mule deer gun points.
Yeah, exactly. They're
going to archery points.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah. They divide it by specific species and method of take.
Yeah.
So, like, if you apply for such and such whitetail antlered buck rifle points, that's your whitetail antlered buck rifle point that you gain that year. If you want whitetail antlerless points, which they have, you have to apply for one of those hunts as well to accumulate a point. You can't apply for a point either. You have to apply, and if you get drawn, that's your hunt.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Yeah, and
that's
you
what
lose
I ran
your
into
points
last year.
if you turn down.
Yeah. So this is also something to kind of take note of, but I'm pretty sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you can have, say you have 3 points for gun whitetail. You can put in for pretty much as many gun whitetail hunts as you want, but you're still only going to gain 1 point that year if you don't draw any of them.
Yeah.
But if you draw any of them, then you lose all your points. It doesn't matter. So
exactly. And it's complicated, and I wish that they would make it more streamlined, but when you think about that, I think it gives you more opportunity.
Yeah, I do too.
Because in Colorado, you can apply for, it's really just first choice is about it,
right.
But you can apply for up to 3 choices, but really your first choice is the only one that matters.
As a non-resident.
Yeah, as a non-resident, yeah. So you really only get to say, I want to hunt this one unit. Where in Texas, you can say, I want to hunt these 17 things, and maybe you'll draw one of them or whatever.
Yeah.
But when you do that, say, you got to watch out because some of them are kind of easy to draw.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And you burn your points on that easier thing, and you never get to go on
you're hunting spikes.
Yeah.
And you, like you said, you're, the good hunt is going to take 15 years, and it's like, man, probably never going to get that if you don't accrue some points, So
yeah. And there's something too where, like, if you don't apply in consecutive years, you lose your points.
Yeah, I think that's right. I can't remember exactly what the amount of years is, but I lost points.
But pretty much, I think I spend $27 every year because it's $3 per application, and that gets me all the points that I want. I think you do the alligator thing, which I don't mess around with too much.
Yeah.
Which I might have given you a spotlight on your alligator. Sorry, but
no, that's good. I don't care. I mean, there's a bunch of people.
Because I think usually
it's a specialized deal,
Yeah, you usually end up spending a couple more dollars than me.
Yeah, I'm like in the 30s or something usually, and I don't. There's some like $10 applications that you can put in for that are like super hunts or whatever. And
now, this is something too that we'll get to that in a second. But I want to mention something real quick before we get there. If you're listening to us and you're not from Texas, guess what? We're one of the few states that your odds aren't different and your cost isn't different, at least for this stuff. Like, I think it costs you more to get an in-state license, but it's still like $200-something. It's not that much, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty cheap license, I think.
And that gets you a bunch of tags. It's not just a tag. So, not to just mess ourselves over here, but if you're out of state and you do want to come hunt some exotics or a whitetail in Texas or something, like, it's a pretty good out-of-state option to start accumulating points in, for sure.
For sure. And I mean, to me, I see it as there are some pretty good hunts in Texas that are public draw hunts. But I wouldn't say, like, to me, if I was going to travel to hunt somewhere, just because I wanted to go have a chance at a big deer, I wouldn't go to Texas to draw hunts. You know what I mean? Because
some people like the mystique of Texas.
But that's the thing. Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, that's what I was saying. Is that it's the mystique, like you said. It's a good word for it. And also, like, some people just have goals like, I'd like to kill a deer in every state or something like that. You know what I mean?
Want to kill a Texas whitetail.
Yeah, exactly.
And you got to go to South Texas to do it. Or
I would like to hunt the brush country. You know, there's stuff that you can do for sure.
Go down there and rattle like Larry Washoon.
Yeah.
Get your ghost blind out and just shoot them with a pistol. Dadgummit.
I know it, dude.
Yeah. The culture's cool.
Yeah.
And it's a cool thing to experience.
If you've never had a taco from Texas, then that's worth coming the whole way for anyway.
That's right, man. We checked our Kyle Bennett box, made him happy today. There's some cool opportunity there. One thing I would advise is do your research on these units you're going to apply for, and I don't want to discourage anybody from doing what they want to do, but personally, I would never burn points on a unit that has general deer hunting options.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a lot of units out there, a lot of WMAs that have draw hunts, but the rest of the year people get to hunt it. Like, like they have rifle draw hunts, but it's bow hunting all season long.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, if you don't know that much about it, that place gets raged. Raged.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not worth it.
Yeah.
It is not worth burning your points on to do that.
I
So
agree.
just do your research on which units.
Unless you're a local guy.
Yeah,
maybe
and you have good information.
You've got some good information, or just say you're a local guy that doesn't care, just wants to shoot a doe this year and doesn't have a place.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to travel halfway across the state. I understand that. You know what I mean? Like, get you that rifle tag and go shoot a doe with the rifle.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be, you'll still have a good chance at that. But as far as like shooting a 13-inch wide buck or wider on a hunt like that, man, you're going to have to get so lucky.
What else is interesting too is some of these have different regulations than the state mandated regulation that they can imply.
That's true.
So some places it's a 14-inch wide buck.
I know. That's crazy, dude. Like,
What?
What's the point? We're going to let 1 inch be the difference.
That's
here,
right. And talk about sweating bullets, man. Pretty much the
Mm-hmm.
thing is you need to look for wide deer at that point in time, And man,
East Texas 8s sometimes they get wide.
sometimes they don't.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, an East Texas 8 can get wide. We may be kind of getting rid of that gene, though. You know what I mean? Like 2 and 3 year old wide buck is getting shot.
Yeah, he's getting smoked for
You know
sure.
what I mean?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. We'll talk more about genetics another time, maybe with somebody who knows a little bit more. But it's a strange concept. But that's the general Texas draw hunts, right? And you've got, I won't go down the species list. We'll put a link below to all this stuff. But there's also like some special hunts. Okay, we'll start with like postcards, which are the $10 ones you were talking about. Usually,
postcards are free.
Postcards are free.
Yeah,
that's right.
And there's a couple of good postcards hunts.
Yeah,
some of them I think are kind of hit or miss, but then there's some that are.
Well, some are free to go on too. But we need to mention this.
Yeah, that's a good point. We need to mention
on the general draw or whatever they call it. I don't know, Texas draw hunts.
The hunts we just talked about.
Yeah, all the stuff we just talked about. It will cost you $80 to $130 when you show up to go on that hunt.
Yeah.
So on top of your license, it will cost you more, resident or non-resident. So usually that'll be listed. However, it doesn't
You're buying
burn,
a tag.
Yeah, it doesn't burn your tag. So you get a tag when you go there.
So if you draw a hunt that, say you get to shoot a buck and a doe on that hunt, you pay $130. You get those 2 tags, and then you get your other 5 tags, so you can shoot 7 deer that year if you want to.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not bad if you're a guy that wants to fill the freezer that way. It's kind of bad if you're a guy that doesn't just shoot everything all year. You know what I mean? So,
or doesn't have a lot of money and doesn't want to spend that extra money. So just be aware of that inherent cost whenever you go to do one of these hunts. I say that because postcard hunts, some of those are free to apply and some are free to go on as well, because some of them aren't whitetail. Like I think there's a squirrel hunt on postcard that might be kind of fun to do. You know, it's a different place and not a lot of people get to go hunt or whatever. So it's kind of a neat thing. There's actually some really good hunts on postcard, but I think that the odds aren't that great.
Yeah.
But why would you not put in for them?
Sure.
Right? Because it's free
Yeah.
and it's a chance to go, shoot an elk in Texas or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
or just have a good waterfowl hunt, or there's some good deer hunts.
And I think on postcard there's some of those combo hunts, and they're like
I think you're right.
like the duck and deer or something like that, or like quail and pheasant and all that kind of stuff. So and some of those postcard hunts I think will be a little bit more facilitated, especially with the bird hunts. Like I think you're gonna go hunting with maybe a WMA manager or something, like with the ducks and stuff. They're gonna kind of, take you to a blind and you all are gonna hunt or whatever.
Yeah, that's another thing you need to watch for on these hunts is you need to look at how the hunt is run, because if you're just if you're so hardcore at the DIY thing that you don't want to do it any other way, there are some hunts that are very much like run for you. And you can't go anywhere else. They're going to put you in a signed blind, and they're going to tell you can't shoot anything less than a 270.
And they're going to drive you to and from said blind.
Yeah.
There's also some hunts that you have to have a boat to get to, which is real weird.
There's that's some crazy stuff, man.
The best thing, well, I'm not going to say the best thing. The thing that I look for is compartment hunts.
Yeah.
Where you get, say, this 400 acres is yours, and that's
you can
kind of
do what you want there, pretty much. Yeah, that's a pretty fun hunt for sure. It also can be intimidating if you're a guy that doesn't get to hunt much and don't. There's a deer in the road down there. You see that?
It's a little spotted fawn.
Anyway, if you're a guy that doesn't get to hunt much, then you might want somebody to kind of be like, hey, here's the blind. Shoot something if you want to, if it comes out. I mean, it's fun, too, to shoot things. We talked about that yesterday.
Yes, it is. And one of the things you'll find is, like, especially on some of the really high-end – high-end's a weird word, but we'll
better
just
quality.
use it. Yeah, better quality exotic hunts will be the assigned blind hunts. If I think that's a little trade-out, with – it's assigned blind, but where else are you going to go where you can shoot a sandbar? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's kind of cool.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of those assigned blind hunts will allow baiting, which is kind of interesting, too. And Texas is a bait state. I don't care what you think about it. It's legal here. So if everybody else is doing it, then you might as well do it. But they usually have like an alpha toxin thing you got to worry about with your corn and stuff like that. So you got to keep that in mind, too, as well.
About high quality corn.
That's right. I like the high quality corn, too.
Another thing I would mention to just be cautious of is that like post draw expense of the $130 or so, because don't just assume that's on big game, because I believe there's a squirrel hunt that's like $130.
I think they may have done away with that, but for at least 1 year for sure, that was the case.
Dude, people were like, "Are you kidding me right now, man?" So you gotta just make sure you do your research on that stuff so you know. Okay,
so we kind of covered a couple things there, but the e-postcard hunts, just check those out. They're inexpensive or free. The e-postcards are to put in for. I think used to why it was called postcard hunts originally. You had to like fill out a thing and send it in to be able to go into it. Well, now everything's digital, especially in the time of Rona. So there are, I guess, special hunts is what they call the $10 ones to put in for.
Super hunts, I think.
Well, super hunts are a different deal too.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know everything.
I don't
about
know either.
this.
We're not looking at a computer right now. We're looking at chickens. So, but anyways, there's some $10 ones that are super high quality. That I think one of the big things with the $10 ones is that. You may be the only person hunting that place whenever you get to go do it, which sounds real cool.
Oh, yeah, dude.
But one of the things you got to keep in mind in Texas, too, is it's a giant state. There will be some travel involved if you do draw one of these, and sometimes your travel is way, way, way out there.
You're talking like 10 hours, man.
Yeah, get the map out when you start applying for these things. If you see, like, Black Gap, know that, like, you are... in
Mexico.
The black hole of Texas, okay? Like, it is way, way out there. So keep that in mind, too. And then there's the super hunts, which I think are different than those $10 ones. I don't know for sure, but, like, there's, like, 6 or 7 or 8 of these where it's like...
Aren't they raffle? So you can buy as many... many as you want? I can't remember. Sorry, guys, we're not super versed on this.
Yeah, once you start getting into these... ones that the odds are pretty terrible at, I don't really look at that much. But
$10
somebody's got to win it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you start going, well, I'm going to put in for these $5, $10 hunts. Now you just spent $50 on top of your 30. And so for me, man, for a lot of people that's probably not a whole lot, and they would take the chance. But for me, I like things that have good odds. I'm not much of a gambler, and so I'm not putting in for too many of those.
But
man.
You say that. And you're right. You don't, and I don't either. But somebody's got to win it, and you can't win it if you don't play the game, And if you want to shoot a bighorn in Texas, you either need $60,000 to buy a landowner tag, or you got to be one of the two guys that year that draws a bighorn tag. And I think there's two ways to do it in Texas. One is like with the I don't know. There's
either.
two different bighorn draws. Last year there was two guys that drew bighorn tags, and they both were successful. That's another good thing about like some of those high-end hunts is like your success rates are close to 100.
Yeah.
If you can shoot, you can kill something.
Right.
But they're all going to be out west. But either way, that to an extent satisfies the complaint of yours in the past, where Texas has a pretty substantial bighorn population and it's growing, and they hadn't given an extra tag to the public in a long time. And last year, I think they did. And it went from 1 to 2.
They it's a kind of a hush-hush thing as to what they actually do with some of those tags, but I know a lot of them go to landowners to sell.
Talk about that more. I'm going to look up some of this stuff. Yeah, so, I get it. The magic of cellular technology here. I'm going to look up
I want to say
bit
there might have been more available to the public. Maybe, I don't know this for sure, maybe Texas Bighorn Society would raffle one off too. I'm not exactly sure. But in the past, it's definitely been easy to find one Texas Bighorn draw, and the other stuff would be something that you'd have to be a internet ninja to find, I guess. But they give a lot of tags to the landowners in the areas, and those landowners get to sell for like $50,000, $60,000, whatever they might can sell it for, and that is just not super fun for the guy who doesn't have much money or land. You know what I mean? So that's an unfortunate kind of part of the whole that society. When things get so outrageously expensive, you're going to deal with people who are rich and politicians and everything else in government. So it's just like you don't have a whole lot of say in what goes on. So anyway, that's something that is not one of my favorite things about Texas, but unfortunately, it's just a reality, and maybe one day I'll draw a bighorn sheep tag somewhere else, maybe.
Okay, so there's something that we didn't really differentiate between, and I'm not going to go super far into this, but there is national refuge hunts, which are different than the standard draw hunts or whatever, and that's going to probably be a situation where Texas Parks and Wildlife is working with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Sorry, guys. And they're going to work together, and that's something I learned at my old job. Work together, and get you. That's where you're going to find like those February hunts and stuff too. But that's cool. But anyways, that's kind of a rundown with Texas draw hunts. Anything else that you think we should mention on that deal? A platform, guys. It's worth it.
Give it a shot.
It's fairly inexpensive, but don't go crazy. And don't. One of the things with Texas is you can't be like, all right, man, I'm going to draw this year. However, it is fun to say I am going to draw the pronghorn hunt this year, because it's just kind of a fun thing to tell people. And some people will believe you and some people know the truth. So anyways, something that is not a draw hunt for us this year is going to be elk hunting.
Yeah.
We are going to do a little...
Are you wanting to go into Texas elk here? Or what exactly are you doing?
Hold on. Texas? You talking about those invasives, those non-natives? Right?
No, we have gotten a lot of questions about the Texas stuff, and we've gotten a lot of questions about fly fishing. And we pretty much... It's hard to answer questions about fly fishing sometimes because there's so much to it, but it doesn't have to be as crazy technical as a guy that works for Orvis would do or whatever.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Like, one of the questions we get a lot is like, how do I get started, or what do I need? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about fly fishing from time to time here, and the reason we're kind of getting into this is because for us, we're going to be carrying fly rods on the elk hunt.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so it's kind of just a natural thing for us to talk a little bit about fly fishing, especially since my buddy Wes hit me up the other night. We talked for about 2 hours on the way home from this really extravagant wedding that I was a part of. And Wes was like, man, I don't really get it. I hear you guys talking about it, and I'm going to buy some fly fishing stuff for my elk hunt, but I don't really get how it all works together.
Yeah.
And I totally get that. And I would say for me, the first thing that I did that helped me out big time was the Orvis Fly Fishing Guide.
It's a nice little book.
Man, it's a good book.
Yeah.
It teaches you about the mayfly cycle, life cycle. It teaches you how to read water, teaches you just every little thing, and it breaks it down on really basic level for you. And Tom Rosenbauer wrote that.
He's a cool dude, man. Dadgummit.
And I think I might have talked about this recently, but definitely suggest getting that book if you're interested in fly fishing. And we just wanted to go ahead and address this topic a little bit real quick here on the podcast so that people can...
It's kind of a listener Q&A. It's almost like we're going to generalize a lot of the questions we get and kind of cover some stuff.
So like if you're getting started in fly fishing, if you have yourself to now tell you as a newbie what to get and what to think about, where are you going to start?
Let me tell you the mistake I made when I first got into fly fishing. Well, when I re-entered the world of fly fishing, because I made different mistakes when I was younger. We'll get into those later. But I re-entered the world of fly fishing about 6 years ago when I moved to the coast and decided I wanted to fly fish in the bays and stuff, which was a great decision. I got real caught up into wanting my setup to look cool, which if you know me, I kind of like things to look neat. Mm-hmm. I like it. I have an AR that I built, and I really like the way it looks. You know, I like my equipment. I'm not going to be a guy who posts a bunch of stuff about it or whatever, but just like my own personal gratification, I like my setup to be cool. She's just eating in the road the whole time.
Chilling in the shade.
It's cool. So I purchased a pretty expensive reel, an Orvis Mirage. I bought it used, but it's still pretty pricey. I think I paid $300 for it or something like that. I don't really remember for sure. And I bought a TFO Axiom fly rod, which was about $200. So I had a pretty expensive fly fishing setup, and it served me absolutely well. But I will tell you that rod is perfect for fishing the Texas coast. That reel is probably too expensive. You can buy some less expensive varieties, but if you're going to fish saltwater, you need a sealed drag reel, so something that's not going to get gunked up in the salt and the sand. So that's just my mistake, is I've spent more money on trying to look cool as opposed to making sure I could go and do more. Now, it helped that I was on the coast, so I had the opportunity to go and do quite a bit because I was there. But really what helped me more, spend less money on my reel and buy a better kayak paddle, because I had a junky kayak paddle that really made it difficult to get a lot of places. So anyways, the overarching concept there is don't buy too cheap of something like a kayak paddle, and don't buy too expensive of something like a really, really fancy rod and reel setup. Tyler is probably even better at this than I am. You go to Cabela's or Bass Pro and get your stuff, right?
Usually,
yeah.
So you're saying don't buy the Shakespeare at Walmart?
No. Okay. Let me tell you something. Something that drives me nuts more than anything is someone who has no clue about, let's say, fly fishing, for instance, Butch, and asks me my advice because they know that I'm not an expert in fly fishing by any means, but I know the stuff somewhat. Done it for quite a while, and have some experience, and I can kind of convey what I've learned to you. And I say, don't go buy the cheapest thing you can. You know, it's worth going and spending $200 on an outfit, fly rod and reel, and then spending, buy a good line, because that makes a huge difference. Like if you have to, spend a little less on your rod and reel to buy a good line. And then they say, well, I went to Academy and they didn't have one of them little $20 setups. I just want to get one of them. And it's like, why'd you even ask me? Yeah. But yeah, don't even start out. If you start out with that Shakespeare green rod, black reel combo, unless you're a kid catching bluegill on it, you're going to have a terrible time.
Yeah, it's not going to be fun.
Not going to be fun.
I think that kind of goes through and through with a lot of things, man. Like I've, my first electric guitar that I went and bought, I had one the buddy gave to me for $100 one time. And then the first one that I really bought and was like, I'm going to spend some money, I spent quite a bit of money on it. Mm-hmm. And I think that when you get something that is at least decent, you tend to have a more enjoyable user experience with that product.
I'll tell you something else that comes out of that too is if you spend $20 on fly rod, you might use it one time like, I wasn't really into that, and you just throw it in the back corner of your garage. If you spend $200, at least me, I'm going to
try it again.
I'm going to try to make sure.
That kind of stunk, but I got to try this again because I spent money. That's exactly right. I had a buddy tell me one time, man, go buy a nice acoustic guitar. You'll write more songs.
Mm-hmm.
You'll pick that sucker up. You'll be like, man, that thing looks awesome sitting over there in the corner of my room. I'm gonna go pick it up and play it,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that thing that rings true, man, with a lot of stuff. Granted, I'm hard-headed enough that I can buy pretty much the cheapest outfit at Bass Pro and, power through it.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, I fish a lot of small streams. So when you say buy a good line, when I'm using a 4-weight and I'm casting 15 feet, it's kind of like, for me, if I don't have good line on there, it's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But when I have my 8-weight out and we're trying to fish, on fork or something like that, there's going to be a difference in not having good line on there because you're trying to make 40, 50 yard or 50 feet casts, and it's just like, this is difficult, So
it is, man.
I agree with you. I am usually, though, of that mindset that if I'm going to go, like my gear gets used pretty hard usually. I mean, you've seen my 6D, my camera. It's been at the bottom of the Black Canyon and back, Same deal with like fly rods. Like I kind of don't want to have something that costs me $1,000 because then I have to take super good care of it.
Yeah.
If it costs me $100,
which is funny because my Orvis reel is just sitting in a case in the bed of my truck and it's been there for 2 weeks. That expensive one that I got. Yeah.
So I'm like, man, I'd rather just like be able to throw it in my truck and spend more time with family or something. Like you get off of water and you got to spend 30 minutes taking care of all your stuff. It's like, gummit, man.
Yeah, that's true. But if you're fishing saltwater, you need to do that either way. Whether you love your family or not, you need to wash off your stuff.
Sure.
Yeah,
but there are definitely cases. But, for me, like I'm fishing freshwater, small streams a lot. And so, like, I'm going to go get something. I'm going to go get the cheapest 4-weight from Cabela's that I can get, which is going to be about $99 or Bass Pro.
You keep saying 4-weight. Why do you choose 4-weight?
That's where I started. And so, and then, it's always just kind of made sense to me, and I don't know that this is necessarily this is going to be a very opinionated or personal experience, but like it's always made sense to me that you would have a 4, and that a 6 tends to be what a lot of people like for bass fishing. So a 4, a 6, an 8, 10-weight, kind of like if you needed all those. I've never had a 6. I've always pretty much tried to run a 4, and if I couldn't find a 4 and I needed a fly rod, I'd buy a 5, if I broke my last one or whatever. But
that's the most readily available rod. For inshore fishing is a 5-weight.
A 5?
Or inshore is not the right word. Freshwater fishing.
Gotcha. Yeah. I see a lot of 5.6s. 4 is a little bit harder to find, but the 4... The 4 gives me a pretty good gap between 4 and 8-weight, and I feel like that if an 8-weight, if a fish is too small for my 8-weight, then it's probably a pretty good fight on a 4-weight. You know what I mean? I can match it up perfectly with this 6-weight and be like, oh yeah, this 3-pound bass is perfect for my 6-weight, or I could just have a little bit better fight on a 4-weight, or it'd be a little bit light on an 8-weight. But honestly, even with that 8-weight that I have, it's a cheaper 8-weight, but like a 3-pound bass is still going to give you a little bit. You know what I mean?
I don't look at it as in size of fish. I look at it with what I'm trying to cast, and that's how I choose my weights of rods and stuff. Yeah. Because you can land any fish on any rod. It's just how it is. Maybe if you've got enough backing.
On Coleman Lake for 45 minutes, and then fought another one for an hour before they both pulled off.
It was like a skill. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. But in theory, you can, because with fly fishing, it's not about how much drag you can lay to them or how much rod you got to put pressure against them. The line is doing a lot of the work in the water with resistance. The reason that line weights are line weights has nothing to do with like the size of the fish. Really, it's about it. You have a 2-weight line on like a little bitty 2-weight rod, and that is enough mass in that line to cast a certain weighted fly. So like not much over like a tiny nymph or a dry fly can you cast with one of those. And even that at a big old bumblebee trying to eat that bee balm right there. So you can't even cast a very wind resistant fly. And that's why I like a 6-weight for Texas stuff, and I'm kind of a recent convert. I want to do the 4, 6, 8 thing. It's going to take me a while to get there because I just don't have the money to buy another rod to get there. But I've got a 6, and I like it because I can cast decent sized streamers with it. Like like Clousers and other stuff like that, even up to a smaller articulated streamer with that 6-weight, and feel like it's not wearing me out to cast. Because if you get the situation, and we even do it on 8-weights a lot with bass flies, like you get to the point where you're really not fly fishing anymore. You're kind of flinging a big old heavy fly out there, and that thing's zipping by your ear, and the line isn't making a loop anymore. It's just kind of just flopping out there, And that's just the way of the world. But like that's how I choose, my rods and lines. And I do like the 4-weight, like you have too. That's a great stream rod whenever you're talking about, dry flies or single nymphs and stuff like that. But that 6-weight's real nice too when you start trying to do like the bobber thing, with nymphs underneath it or whatever, because you can move that float pretty good with that 6-weight, as opposed to like I've tried it on like a 4 and 5-weight sometimes, and it's a little bit much trying to fling that thing out there.
Yeah, the 4's not going to give you. I mean, it's a good trout rod. It's a good small stream rod, but I used my 8-weight a couple years ago. I got this video that I set the camera up, and I had seen a bass. I guess it was protecting a bed or something, and I'd seen it kind of. So I cruised by, and I come back around, and had marked it, or whatever with my eyes. And so I just had a little bitty frog fly, and I flung it up there on that 8-weight, and this is like a 16-inch fish, so 2.5 pounds or whatever. And I set the hook, dude, and the rod bowed up real hard, and fought this fish, and it was fun on an 8-weight. So you know what I mean? Like it's but at the same time, like I can cast pretty big lures with that 8-weight. So the distance between a 4 and an 8 it's a pretty big rod distance, when you look at them and that kind of thing, and the ability to throw a bigger fly, but it's still a fly rod, so it gives you a good, bend in the rod and everything.
Bluegill are just not going to be great on an 8-weight, but like, my 8-weight experiences in the saltwater a lot, and I've caught, 10-inch sand trout. They're fun.
Yeah.
If it's got a little tug to it and a little bit of mass or whatever, it's a fun deal.
Yeah,
and I've
fun.
caught, like a 20-pound striper on that rod, so like, and it's all fun.
Oh yeah, it is, man. Another thing I would kind of talk to fly fishing newbie about is, the size of the water if you're going to go fishing and what you're after. I would just treat yourself a little bit like a kid and try to put yourself in front of fish that are going to bite first, so you can learn.
Yeah.
And this is what I did when I first started fly fishing. Is I read the book that I was talking about earlier, and then I would go. I lived in Dallas, so it was about from there it was about 3 hours to Broken Bow, Oklahoma, and I would go up there, and just that's where I cut my teeth, was learning that river, and I found me a good spot that looked like I could catch some fish, and I just tried to put those tactics into play. And there's a lot of times I'd go up there and I'd probably catch 3 or 5 in an afternoon, long afternoon, say lunch to dark, and I'd be like, man, that was some tough fishing. Learned a lot, but I still, not having a mentor or something, didn't really learn as much as I probably could have. And then there'd be days when they were just biting, and I'd catch 25 in an afternoon or whatever, and it'd be so much fun, and it would keep me going back. Of course, then the entire southern U.S. moved to Broken Bow, and got cabins and stuff.
Yeah, man.
But it used to be pretty fun. So like I would say, find you a stream or whatever, and try to just learn how to read water. The thing is with tiny bugs is that they don't have enough power to just swim through the water and stuff a lot of times. So you have to get a natural drift, and you've got to really work at that sometimes. So we're not going to go into all the techniques, but just know that if you go out and you're like, I'm going to go fly fishing this year, on the way out elk hunting or whatever, don't just go to the Arkansas River and start trying to cast it out in the middle of that thing. You know what I mean? Because you're going to have all kinds of currents going everywhere.
Yeah.
Find your pockets. Learn how to roll cast, learn how to high stick, and just fish pockets, and try to land dry flies in shallow water and pockets where you think, there's a deep hole behind a boulder, and, try to just pick fish apart. Do it more like hunting at first, as opposed to just, trying to be a river runs through it and cast a beautiful cast. 60
Swim
feet,
out to this rock in the middle.
Yeah.
Just get 50 feet of line out the end of your rock.
That's right.
Yeah, that's another thing too. If you want to really talk about like things you learn is that, man, anytime you got more than about 25 foot out the end of your rod, you got too much line out there, unless it's a cast.
Yeah.
Like, don't be out there being Vince Vaughn in, what was that movie? Yeah, I don't know, where he's doing the ribbon
Wedding
thing.
Crashers?
Yeah, no, it was Old School, I think, or something like that. But anyways, fly fishing ain't about the cast. The cast is the means to an end. Don't get out there and do 17 false casts. Like, get as much line as you can out and make your cast that you need to do that.
Yeah,
so, like,
that's good advice.
Lines have shooting heads and then running lines. And used to, that stuff tied together, and they're actually two different pieces. Well, now it's all one big thing. But pretty much, if you want to boil it down to, like, something that's easy to understand over audio, the front of the line, like, 15 to 25 feet is going to be a fatter, heavier part of the line, and then it's going to neck down to a skinnier running line that's going to be 75 to 90 feet long or whatever, depending on what line you get. But any point in time that you get past that fat part and get that running line out of the tip of your rod, your cast is going to pretty much go to crap. So, get your 25 foot out or whatever it is that your shooting head or however long that is, and just make your cast. And the way you get distance is not by getting more line out on your false cast. It's about velocity and then good form. I'm acting this stuff out right now, of course. But
you're shooting, you're not casting.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the whole thing is not to be just having a whole bunch of line whipping around everywhere. That's how you get frustrated.
I'll guarantee you.
And I say all that to say this: just start out with short casts.
Yeah,
exactly. Just make
smaller water,
15-yard
casts.
Yep. They're going to tell you that you need a fancy long leader for trout, and sometimes you do.
Since we're talking about line, talk about what a leader and a tippet is real quick.
Okay, so most leaders you're going to find nowadays are tapered leaders. I would very much advise you to buy 9-foot tapered leaders, and a good all-around one is going to be a 4X leader, which 4X, I can't really describe to you what that is, but it's pretty much like 5-pound line at the end of it. And it's going to taper down from like a 40-pound line, smooth taper like they drew it out of a machine, down to the 5.5-pound line at the end of it. And sometimes you might need to add skinnier line, lighter line on the end of that because you're fishing for spooky fish or with tiny flies. But most of the time, that's going to catch most trout, especially if you're fishing with like a hopper or a nymph or something like that. The tippet is going to be the stuff that you tie to the end of that to either make it smaller, make it longer, or replenish it. So after you've tied on 17 flies because you got caught in the bushes, like your leader ends up being a little bit short. Before it starts to neck up too much to bigger line, you need to tie some tippet on there, which looks like little tiny rolls of fishing line, which is what it is.
I just buy a 4-pound test sometimes.
You can do that. Yeah. The 4-pound test actually usually ends up being a little bit thicker than like a 4-pound tippet material is, but in a pinch,
I buy
it works.
fluorocarbon, so it's pretty thin, it's pretty translucent.
But with fluorocarbon, that'll sink dry flies because fluorocarbon sinks.
Yeah, for sure.
And monofilament floats, so keep that in mind too. If you're a fancy fly fisherman, you'll have a stack of fluorocarbon tippets and a stack of monofilament tippets because it depends on which one, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think, did that kind of...
But you also, it's not going to sink your dry fly until it's a pretty long float sometimes. So, like, I'll fish fluorocarbon with a dry fly if I'm fishing fast water.
Yeah.
Or if I'm high sticking. It's like, whatever,
I think... this is one of the times where personal preference is going to be a thing where we just agree to disagree. I really stay away from the fluorocarbon, but it's
I like
to
it
each
because
his own.
It's really hard for fish to see.
Yeah, it's true. It very much is.
That's what I like about it. But yeah, I mean, really, I just literally have a 4-pound test fluorocarbon spool that I've been using for 10 years.
The good thing about fluorocarbon is it doesn't go bad either.
Right.
Like monofilament, after about 3 years, it's going to start being pretty
breaking down.
Pretty brittle, pretty breakable.
Yeah.
With fluorocarbon, it's going to be here after we're gone.
So
you got to keep that in mind too. We don't want to get too Green New Deal or anything around here, but if you throw some fluorocarbon line down, it's going to be there.
Yeah.
It ain't deteriorating.
Yeah.
Anytime soon.
There's really, fly fishing can be very technical. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of people that are purists about the cast, like KC said, and just go catch fish, or it's not going to be fun. Probably
you do run into a lot of personal preference stuff too. So like when Tyler and I are telling you the stuff about fluorocarbon, that's not. None of that is like the gospel truth, right? That's just going to be stuff that's our personal preference, and you can take what you want to. The best thing to do is try it both out and see what you like, because you're going to run into, and one of the things you run into too is guys who try to take their opinions and tell you it is the way, right? And that's not really the case. That's right, dude. Keep them wet in the grease.
It's our favorite hashtag right there. Keep them wet,
dude. That might have discouraged us from posting fly fishing pictures this year because the two people are like, "Oh, nice fish, bro, but keep it wet." It's like, dude, this fish don't even belong
Do you see the
here.
water dripping off this fish? The thing is, and I get where it comes from because we grew up on Fork, man, and how many dudes have pulled a 4-pound slot fish out to take a picture of it, dropped it on the carpet of the boat, picked it back up.
Yeah, first of all, they flung it in the boat. They flipped it in there and wiped all the slime off before they even touched the fish.
Yeah, and then, picked it up, it flopped, it dropped in the boat, they pick it up again. 4.5 minutes later, they're done taking pictures of it because it took them a while to get the camera out. And it's like, that fish is for sure a dead fish.
Yeah.
That's not me. I'm not a keep them wet kind of guy, but I give fish fresh water every 10 to 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Easy. I mean, I just do not keep fish out of the water long. It's just it's a matter of doing that. It's not, I don't think I don't think that keeping them underwater the whole time is something that you have to do, but like, I definitely don't keep them out of water very long at all. Like keep them in the water till you take a picture of them. But anyway, people get a little bit, people can get pretty high and mighty about their fly fishing and their the way they handle things and the way they do things.
I think it's because they don't get to fish as much as they'd like, so they
got
to rage about something
on social. Yeah. No, but it is. We won't go too far down anymore this fly fishing road, but we wanted to help some of you guys out that have had some questions for us. If you do have any more questions, feel free to reach out to us. We'll try to help you. It's just a hard thing to explain. Like I said earlier, you got to get out there and just get experience, man. It's kind of like map scouting can be hard too if you haven't done it a whole lot, and then put the boots to the ground to see what you did, how you did, and so like, sometimes KC's just going to be a better map scouter than you because he's spent a lot of time map scouting and a lot of miles have been put on those shoes, especially. And so, he can tell you why this is going to work, So, anyway, the fly fishing stuff is something that we're going to be carrying with us, and many of you are probably going to as well into the Elkwoods this year. So we're looking forward to the elk hunt this year. We're going to be doing OTC because Tyler didn't draw.
That's right. Way to go, Tyler. We're counting on you.
We were, but coronavirus showed up.
Yeah. A lot of people didn't draw like they thought they would.
Yeah.
But we're going to OTC. I've killed 2 OTC bulls. I've drawn 1 elk hunt and didn't kill an elk on that trip. Yep. So, here,
maybe it's back to your old stomping grounds.
Might be it, man. I don't know. I think we'll, especially since we're both going to be tag holders, there's a good chance that a elk dies. The funny thing about success ratios is that they lie a whole lot because there's a whole lot of people who, not to be rude or anything, but aren't going to kill an elk before they ever even go. It's the way it is. If you spend most of your time at camp and you don't get up early and you just kind of wander through the woods not thinking about what you're doing, like that happens a whole lot on all kinds of hunts, So, for whatever it's worth, don't pay that much attention to those success ratios. If you get out there and work hard and do your research and make sure you're hunting good, like you can definitely outdo what those ratios say. So, with that being said, the average in Colorado, I think, for OTC elk success is like 15%. You got
really?
2, yeah.
That high?
Yeah.
I felt like it would be lower than that.
Nah, it's
pretty
maybe
decent.
10 to 15, somewhere in there.
Gotcha.
Anyways, you double that, it's 30, then give us a little bit of credit.
We have 50% chance.
Yeah, we got a pretty good chance of something dying. And truth be told, maybe you're thinking about bull success as opposed to take.
Mm-hmm.
I think about take because I'm going to shoot cow if I get a chance because
it's tasty.
We need to eat, man. They're good. They're real good. And
boy, got to eat.
Cows are a little bit lighter to pack out too.
Yeah.
So I don't know that from experience. I've never shot a cow. I almost shot one 2 years ago.
Butch held you off?
No, not that one. No, that was a different one. I almost shot a 4-point whenever that happened. Freaking Butch. He's getting raged on the podcast today.
He is, man. Dadgummit.
But
y'all need to go listen to that podcast if you haven't.
that was a fun one.
Casey's
my
dad.
No, last year I had that cow come into calling, and I drew, and I think she caught me at the end of my draw, and all I had was her neck. I didn't have shoulder. She was at like 35 yards. I was about to rip her down. That was 2 years ago. Whatever. But anyways, that's what we're doing. I hope y'all are kind of excited to maybe pursue some Western hunts or something like that. It's a lot of fun. Don't go where we go, but go.
Yeah.
And we'll have a cameraman this year, too, which is going to be a neat dynamic for Tyler and I. We might introduce you to that clown one of these days. We'll see.
It depends on if he wants to quit being a clown.
That's right. That's right, man. But hopefully we'll be able to get y'all some pretty good video, so you can, at least if you're not going elk hunting, you'll get to experience what we do.
A little vicarious living.
Yeah, that's right, dude. That's the only way to do it, and I think that's why social media is so powerful nowadays. It's all about vicarious living.
Yeah, yeah.
Like a whole time I'm on social media, I'm scrolling and saying, yeah, man, that's cool. I'd like to do that. That's what it's all about.
Yep.
And then other times you're like, man, I just wish I didn't follow you anymore.
The whole time I'm on social media, I just am commenting negative comments on people's posts.
Are you?
Yeah. I didn't know that's what you did.
Oh.
I didn't know you could use social media for positive things.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we're excited to do the elk hunting stuff, but right now it's just we've talked about it in the podcast previous a couple of years back, but this is the doldrums. This is the dog days of the heat of the summer in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do you think? What would you say is the best thing to do in late July in the South?
Find some clear water and get in it, underneath it. But besides that, okay, so we're going to do a little bit of hog hunting here probably pretty soon. And it's going to be somewhat of an equipment test, which is real nice because we're going elk hunting. We're not changing our equipment too much. I did put the old single pin on my bow this year. We'll see how I like that. I liked it when I was practicing with it in the spring. But Tyler and I are both still shooting day 6 arrows and broadheads. We love Brian, loves products. And I am going to shoot a little bit different broadhead this year. I'm going to go down to the Evos, I think. Mm-hmm. I'm probably going to have both in my quiver. But
you shot the Evo X?
I shot the Evo X last year, which is a little bit wider. And truth be told, I don't think that my bow is a great it's not a very tunable bow. Mm-hmm. I can't ever get it tuned perfect.
What bow is it?
It's a Matthews Triax. It's okay. Shoots fast. It's light. No, it's not light. It's okay on weight, whatever. I like the bow okay. But with all that being said, the bigger your broadhead is, the harder it is to hit where you're aiming. And I like those Evo X's. And if you're shooting like, a stick and string bow or whatever, or an older bow that doesn't shoot real fast at all, and it's probably going to work just fine. And honestly, I could hit with them pretty good last year too. But I got to thinking about it, and if I can go to a smaller broadhead, it just takes more of the hunter error out, which really is what that is like on my bow, if I just tweak the slightest anything I'm doing, you can see that in arrows. And guys, Tyler can tell you, I can put them in there at 70 yards when we're standing here in the driveway, but hunting scenarios are a different deal, man.
Oh, man, like 100%.
I didn't hit my elk that I shot this year where I wanted to, and ended up, just lost that bull. He didn't die. Hit him high. Y'all have seen the video probably, but it's a different deal. Hunting scenarios is the point, and I don't ever put on all my whitetail marshmallow man stuff to shoot in the yard because you can't. No. You'd sweat before
yeah,
sweat
you're going to have to wash it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's going to smell so bad,
So with that being said, I'm going to try to take some of the hunter error out, and I'm getting some of those regular Evos, which you shot last year, and they did well for you. You freaking killed some stuff.
They put some holes in the ground.
That's right. They made it through both. And that's the other good thing about shooting a little bit narrower broadhead is that penetration is going to be better. People talk about, it's a good penetrating broadhead, 3.5 inch cut. Look, listen, there's no magic to penetration. it is the wider the cut, the less it penetrates. That's the way it is. Now there are a few little things here and there you can work on, and I get that. And don't tell me I'm an idiot, but if you just want to break it down, the less cut you got, the more it's going through.
Yeah.
We don't hit people with knives crossways. When you want to stab somebody, you stab them with a pokey end, know? So
that's right.
I actually never stabbed anybody, I promise, guys.
But that would be if you had to.
If you had to, in self-defense.
Yeah. No, I mean, I shot 3 deer with that rig last year with those arrows and broadheads, and all 3 arrows were stuck in the ground on the other side.
That's pretty cool, man.
It is cool. It's a good feeling. I'm actually, not like a penetration snob at all. But dude, it's a good feeling when you kill a deer and the arrow's stuck on the other side.
Yeah. That's when you know smoked.
Smoked. That's right.
As long as it smells good.
Yeah.
Tyler is an arrow smeller.
I am a smeller of arrows.
You like to smell them arrows.
Yeah, no, it's that's definitely something we're going to be looking at. So we're going to be we've got here on my property right now, we've got a big bore hog that is coming in. He was coming in a little more consistent the first few days. We had him coming into some soured corn that KC gave to me.
When I say sour, or Tyler says soured,
we're talking about maggots.
We're talking about
nasty.
6 months old soured.
Yeah, and so I'm out of soured corn now. I've got a little bit of the regular stuff. Didn't really want to use on a hog, but this hog is not being consistent enough for us to get up in a tree in 97-degree heat and 100% humidity. And so, hopefully we get a chance at this dude. But
we haven't had the wind for him yet.
You know what's nuts is the deer have been smoking that soured corn.
That's weird.
That is very weird.
Especially, look at all the food out here right now.
Man.
Speaking of, Adam Keith came down, and we're going to have some YouTube videos from that whole deal from Land and Legacy. And, he told us, we kind of knew some stuff, but he helped confirm some things. There's a lot of food here.
Yeah.
Why are those deer eating that nasty corn?
Man, I don't know.
Are they eating the maggots out of it instead? They eat that protein?
Don't do that to me. Nasty. There's no telling, man. Maybe it's just a variance in diet they're looking for a little bit, Like you've got a ton of ragweed, a few other grasses they may eat, and then a bunch of partridge pea, and then they've probably got goldenrod and stuff like that. None of which we've seen any browse on, but there's a bunch of it. So it's like, what are 10 deer going to do? Are they going to deliver enough browse pressure that you're going to be able to really see it? But I really have not seen any browse pressure. So it's like, kind of makes you think. And I don't know, maybe deer around here are just so conditioned to corn feeders that it's a deal that is generational now or whatever. So they just like corn. But that's kind of what we're hoping to do is shoot a hog maybe in this last little bit before before elk season.
And it's a great thing to do this time of year because what else are you going to hunt when you got the edge? I mean, we can let these chickens loose, but they ain't going to be too hard.
Yeah, I don't think a hawk would get to them before we could.
That's right. But it'll be a good way to kind of, if you are tinkering with some stuff and want to try some of that day 6 stuff or whatever, dude, ain't nothing better than a hog to try it on. And honestly, hogs are dense animals. They have thicker bones. So if you're a whitetail hunter and you're going to go elk hunting and you want to try something out and maybe look and see how your setup does comparatively, you shoot a 200-pound boar hog especially, we're talking about something kind of similar in density to an elk. I know it's a different size critter, but big bones, if it's got that shoulder shield, that gristle plate on it, then, it's going to be a good test of your equipment for sure. I mean, I've shot plenty of hogs with expandables in the past, and I was like, wow, that did not go in there very far.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
It's a good thing to test out on. And right now, dude, we're so stir crazy.
I know, man.
Golly,
this is here's the deal, guy. We're gonna be transparent with you guys. We struggled to even have the inspiration to do this podcast today, and I think it's turned out pretty good.
Yeah,
but before this, we were like, man, it is so hot. All we've been doing is working. All we've been doing is producing videos the last couple weeks inside. It's like, what are we going to talk about that people are going to want to listen to? And so we luckily came up with some ideas. But even up until this morning, we were like, should we do this or should we not? But I think it turned out all right, and hopefully y'all can be the judge of that, But I think that, we are, like you said, stir crazy, man. We need something to do. And it's getting to the point where, we were wanting to go do some hill country fly fishing, and those rivers are going to get low probably, especially if we don't get much rain, which it doesn't look like we're going to.
No, and we're not going to get a good wind for your pig for like the next 10 days.
I know.
Golly.
So it's tough. It's a tough time of year for us. I know our northern brethren are fishing the driftless area and having a blast right now, and doing all that kind of thing. Our western crowd is like, oh, it's hopper season finally, and we're like, no, it's hopper season finally.
Yes, exactly. Eat all the leaves off my fig trees.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a tough time of year for us, but I would probably compare it for guys in Michigan and Montana and all that up there to January. They can't really do much. They can't go outside. They can't do much then. So in January for us, you could get a 60-degree day and have the most beautiful weather. Mm-hmm. Wear a sweatshirt or a long sleeve or just T-shirt if you're working hard enough. You know. So definitely a trade-off. And hopefully, my plan for my life, who knows how it's going to actually go, is that I would have a summer house that this time of year I could go up and just
summer house,
just do a summer cabin.
Yeah.
When I say summer house, it's going to be barely bigger than that shop right there. So 8 by 12. But something I can go up and stay for about a month in and find. It may be an RV, who knows, but like something I can go up to the mountains and fish for a month or two until elk season or whatever, because this time of year just gets brutal around here. People crime rates go up. KC gets mad at everything.
I do.
It's just because of the heat, So.
Yeah, we got to get some relief. Yeah. September can't get here quick enough, man.
That's right. And you know what? This is frustrating me too. On social media, it's a cool thing. People love to follow trends and do the same thing that everybody else is doing. And everybody's like, hunting season's almost here. And I'm like, you don't understand. It's not almost here. Granted, we can tell ourselves and be positive that it is, but for 3 weeks, people have been posting, it's almost here. And I'm like, dude, it is almost 100 degrees is almost here is what's about to happen, So it's like, man, this is not what everybody's trying to make it out to be. I appreciate what you guys are saying. And maybe it feels like fall up there in Wyoming. But anyway, things are different here. Like Casey said, we've got those Land of Legacy videos we did with Adam Keith on our 2 properties, and we're going to just kind of introduce our properties to you guys so that it's not some foreign place that we're hunting all of a sudden, that you've never been introduced to. You get to see our properties a little bit and what's going on there, and then hopefully you and I kill a deer off our properties this year.
Woo, that'd be nice.
You've got a I think a deer that's going to show up because you've had him 2 years in a row, right? That 8-point.
Are you talking about the curvy 8? Or are you talking about?
Oh, I was talking about the other one.
The solid 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we pretty much have confirmed pictures that all intents and purposes looks like him as like a 3 or 4 year old 2 years ago. As soon as I bought my property, so yeah, dude, if we see him as a 5-year-old, he's going to be a
nice bug, dude.
Yeah,
for sure.
Long tines, that's a thing.
Mass.
Yeah. He's not going to be real wide. Whatever.
Yeah.
Smoking.
Dude, he's gonna be a good deer. And you had an encounter with him this year that you could have probably shot him.
Oh, well, he's 40 yards. So, but he was real chill.
Could have shot at him.
Yeah, shot at him.
Who knows how quickly he would have come out of his skin?
That was a weird deal, man. I've explained that on the podcast a couple times, I think, but I didn't realize it was that buck. I thought it was a different deer the whole time, and I kind of just got it in my head that was what he was, and that was it. And I wasn't shooting him. And then looked at the footage later and was like, dadgummit. We actually had a podcast with Mike Hunsucker like at 9 a.m. that day.
That's right.
And had to get down to the stand early, which didn't matter because the freaking dogs ran every deer out of the pasture. So,
dude, I long for those days, man.
The dog days of October.
When it's cool weather, you've been hunting and you got to go do a podcast and you got to go hunting that afternoon.
That's nice, man.
Man, that's a fun time of year for me.
Well, it's almost here, man.
It is almost here. Just several more 100-degree days,
That's
man. Anyway, we've since I guess when in Rome or whatever you want to say about it, but we're in the heat of the summer, so I'm going to post a couple of more videos probably from my trip last year. Try to just go ahead and finish that out. I actually have some really cool footage. I didn't realize how much cool footage of me catching West Slope cutthroats in Idaho that I've been putting together.
Baby.
So the lineup looks like some of those Land and Legacy videos we did with Adam Keith on our properties. Then we've also got the trout videos that are going to be releasing, which seems like a couple hundred people like. And then from there, it's pretty much we're going to be butting right up against the Map Scout Challenge stuff. We've also got some really cool public land hotspot videos that are going to be coming up too that I'm really excited about. They're all produced and ready to rock and go out the door.
That's cool.
We just don't know exactly when they're going to release. But basically, once August 4th hits and we start releasing Map Scout challenges, for almost 10 weeks, you're going to have 2 videos a week probably of public land, map scouting type stuff. And we're going to try to give you as much information as possible going into the fall so that you can lay the crack down on something, man, like crack the whip,
Lay the crack
Make
down.
it happen. Dude,
Yeah.
I just saw a dove and a little swallow flying together like they were best friends.
Maybe they are.
Anyway, guys, we appreciate you listening, and hopefully we can go out and do a little bit of fun soon, so that we can tell you if we can tell you a little more about that fun. I did do some flounder fishing. I don't know if I talked about that on the podcast.
You did.
So
we'll talk about that next time.
Yeah, we'll talk about that
more
next time.
Texas stuff.
Maybe some more Texas stuff. Maybe some more hill country fly fishing. We'll see what we can do. Anyway, in the meantime, remember, this is your element.
Living it.